This iPad is 4 years old, and I've been using it since day one. Let me tell you, it's one of the best and at the same time worst purchases I've ever made. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how it's holding up in 2025, the stuff it can still do like a champ, where it's starting to feel its age, how Apple's fancy intelligence software plays into it, and all the little tricks I use to squeeze every last bit of performance from this 4-year-old device. First, take a look. Does this thing really look 4 years old? The newest iPad Air is basically identical, same exact design, same thickness, same display. If you ignore the smaller camera array, the lack of Face ID, and the slightly faster chip in the latest version, this old iPad might as well be the new iPad Air. So you could call this a long-term review of that one too. I've got all the gear to push this iPad to the limit. Apple Pencil, Magic Keyboard, the newest OS, and a pretty creative workflow. Still, I feel like I'm barely tapping into its actual potential because no matter what kind of task I throw at it, it just refuses to slow down. I'm not gonna bore you with dull benchmarks or video export tests. Let's be real, most of us download YouTube, Netflix, maybe a few games, right? And trust me, for that everyday stuff, this iPad still kills it. After 4 years, and even after seeing Apple's latest M4 iPad Pro up close and using it for a while, I still think the display on this iPad is amazing. It's bright enough, super sharp, color accurate, and the Pro Motion 120Hz makes everything feel buttery smooth. Honestly, that high refresh rate is the real MVP here, because even if the processor ever started to slow down, and keep in mind this one has an M1, so it rarely does, the refresh rate helps it stay feeling fast and responsive. My favorite feature though, the speakers. They're loud, they're crisp and detailed, almost on par with my M4 MacBook Pro. I don't usually blast music or TV shows at max volume, but even when I'm cooking and the stove fan's going full throttle, I can still catch every word from whatever I'm watching. That said, there's one thing that gets under my skin. The anti-reflective coating isn't quite up to par. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but the nano texture glass on the US iPad Pro is just next level stuff. It kills reflections and makes the Apple Pencil feel so much smoother on the screen. My fix for that is pretty simple: a screen protector. I settled on the Paperlike, the sponsor of today's video, and if you do any kind of digital note-taking, sketching, or just love writing with the Apple Pencil, this thing makes a huge difference. The Paperlike actually feels like paper. There's just enough texture and resistance that your strokes feel more controlled and natural, like you're writing a notebook. From the moment I installed it, felt like I was finally using the iPad the way it was meant to be used, and it's not that nano texture feeling. Paperlike uses something they call nano dots. These are tiny micro beads that create that satisfying paper-like friction without messing up the screen clarity. What really surprised me though was how clear the screen still looks. Most matte screen protectors mess with sharpness or mute the colors, not this one. The transparency here is great, no ghosting or hazing effect. My display still looks crisp, the colors pop, and there's almost zero glare, even when I'm working by a window or outside a cafe. I've used it now for weeks, from bullet journaling to sketching thumbnails and writing out scripts. The edit control is subtle but powerful. I'm genuinely faster, more accurate, and I even enjoy writing on the iPad now. And look, if you're someone who writes, draws, brainstorms, or just wants to enjoy your iPad in a more analog feeling way, the Paperlike is a no-brainer. Whether you are an artist, student, a writer, or just someone trying to stay organized, it genuinely helps you connect more with your work. I'll leave the link in the description, be sure to try it. And since I've already mentioned my experience with Apple Pencil, it has honestly been quite a letdown. But not because of the pencil itself, more because of how I use it. It's almost always attached to my iPad and charging, not because the battery's weak, but because I barely use it. I paid something like $90 for it, and I only pull it out once or twice a week to sketch thumbnails. And truth be told, I could probably do those doodles with my fingers. So if you're thinking about an iPad Pro, maybe you don't actually need the pencil. Mine is a second-gen version, and it's missing those new features like barrel roll or hover that the latest iPads support. It's still totally fine for drawing or note-taking, and I know plenty of pro artists who still rock the 2018 iPad Pro with this exact pencil. But if you're serious about your art, maybe spend a bit more for the newer pencil and iPad combo. Accessories, I love accessories, even though they also feel kind of disappointing in my personal workflow. For instance, I've got the Magic Keyboard. It's super nice to type on, great key travel, and the trackpad is smooth. Plus, iPadOS handles keyboard shortcuts perfectly, but I always have my laptop with me, so this $350 keyboard ends up being kind of pointless most of the time. Yes, on a short day trips when I leave my laptop at home, but still need to stay connected, answer messages, or quickly edit some scripts, the Magic Keyboard is a total lifesaver. Otherwise, it's basically a $350 stand that props the iPad up so I can watch YouTube more comfortably. I'm not trying to tell you not to buy the keyboard. You might get more mileage out of it than I do. It all depends on your own workflow. If you've had an iPad before, think about what you actually used it for. If you can see yourself doing your real day-to-day tasks on an iPad, then getting one with the keyboard could be great. But if you're like me, and the iPad is purely an extra device in your arsenal, you can probably skip it. I've really tried to replace my MacBook with the iPad a bunch of times already, but it never lasts. I always hit some wall where my MacBook just does the job better. Don't get me wrong, the iPad is perfect for certain tasks. Like right now, while I'm filming, it's on my desk so I can read text from it or glance at my notes and quotes. It's absolutely fine for that, but so is my MacBook. Next up, sifting through files. After I finish shooting a video, I can pop the memory cards out of all my cameras, plug them into an adapter, then into the iPad, and go through them that way. But honestly, it's only really helpful when I'm traveling or on the move and don't want to drag a laptop around. It used to be a game changer back when I was carrying a 16-inch MacBook Pro everywhere. Now that I have the 14-inch, which is way easier to lug around, the iPad isn't as necessary for this job. And I've gotta say, iPadOS isn't exactly a master at handling external drives. It can feel clunky and slower than it should be. That said, I still love this iPad. It has all the latest iPadOS features, Apple Intelligence included, and iPadOS 18 runs flawlessly on it without any hiccups or slowdowns. All the apps I need work great. Putting an M1 chip in this iPad was really controversial when Apple first did it, but 4 years later, I can safely say it was genius. This thing has aged like fine wine. It's still just as fast and up to date as it was when I bought it. So the performance from that M1 and 18 gigs of memory is expectedly great. But how about the battery life? The M1 iPad was never known as a battery champion. It's efficient, but not super efficient. Plus, given how quickly batteries can degrade on iPhones and MacBooks, it's fair to wonder how this iPad's battery is holding up. There's no way to check capacity in the settings, and apps like Coconut Battery don't show accurate numbers, so I took it to an Apple store and they told me it's still 95% capacity after 4 years. Don't be too shocked though. Apparently iPad batteries hold on to their capacity longer. I have friends with the iPad Mini 6 who say it's still at 100% after a couple of years of daily use. So if you buy this iPad, there is a good chance you'll still have great battery life down the road. I do have a few gripes though. Apple Intelligence is one of them, but not for the reasons you might expect. It's not slow in this device, and it rarely crashes. The M1's neural engine is more than powerful enough for it. The problem is that the features themselves feel pretty useless to me. Sure, the writing tools work in any app that handles documents, but I almost never type anything long enough on my iPad to need that assistance. Generate emojis? Come on, that's just goofy. Notification summary still doesn't run right. The image generator in the image playground lags way behind ChatGPT, and we still don't have the updated Siri. Looks like that's not arriving for a while yet. So for me, using AI in this iPad just means opening ChatGPT. It's easier and faster, and I get all the benefits. Memory, voice chat, a website, image generation, you name it. Sure, it's not built into the operating system, but that's a small trade-off considering how much more ChatGPT can do. If you really want Apple Intelligence or you need some future-proofing, maybe go for the M2 model, but if you're okay with ChatGPT handling your AI needs, this M1 iPad is still a beast even 4 years later. It might sound like I've been dunking on this iPad a lot, so why do I call it one of my best purchases? Simple, it just won't die. You expect Apple devices to stay supported for years, but you don't always expect them to stay this relevant and modern for more than 2 or 3. This iPad is rolling into its 5th year and still shows no signs of quitting. It's almost guaranteed to keep getting iPadOS updates for a couple more years, complete with Apple Intelligence features whenever they finally show up. The display will still look fantastic, and ProMotion will still be a beast to use. Basically, there is nothing on this iPad that can't stand the test of time. But that's exactly what makes it a bad buy for me personally. It's too good. Sure, I could grab the new iPad Pro with an M4 chip and fancy new screen, but I barely notice any difference in everyday use. Why throw money at something if it's not going to feel like a real upgrade? That's the downside of this iPad's perfection. It stops me from upgrading to anything else. And that's why I might finally say goodbye to it this year. If you're in the market for an iPad, maybe skip the M1 model, go for at least an M2. You can find them pretty affordably online. You'll get more performance, Apple Pencil hover mode, and longer software support. Or you could spring for the M3 iPad Air, which gives you basically the same experience, but no ProMotion display. Either way, you'll have an awesome iPad that can potentially replace your laptop. And me, I guess I should finally post that for sale ad on Facebook Marketplace. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.